As someone who has worked with over 40 plus agencies, I'm going to tell you the best project management system you can use for 2026 and beyond. And today's debate will be mainly around Monday and ClickUp. I think those are the two most sophisticated systems in 2026. There is Asana. I don't think that Asana is here for the future. I think it's quite outdated, and I've still built an Asana. I still do. I love the platform. But if we're thinking about long-term scalability and what I see amongst the top agencies is between these two platforms. If you don't know who I am, I'm Maxi. I'm the founder of FlowClick. I've built the backend for over 45 creative and marketing agencies, and I have a YouTube to showcase how actual real operations should look like for agencies. And one day you work with me, and that's kind of the end goal. But in short, today we want to specifically talk about Monday versus ClickUp and why those two are the main project management platforms there is and which one to pick. The first thing, which is the thing we have to think about when picking the platform, is the cost behind the platform. There is a core difference on how the cost is looking like, mainly because if you start by looking at Monday and the cost around Monday, it's per 3 seats, per 5 seats, per 10 seats, 15, 20 seats, which I technically think is wrong. I don't like the pricing, mainly because if you are a team of, let's say, 2 people, you have to pay for 3 people. If you're a team of, okay, I'm, let's say, 30 employees, 31 employees, I have to pay for the team of 40 employees, right? And if you do the backend math, and I usually always recommend the highest plan for all kinds of systems, mainly because if you're paying an amount for a system, you would like make sure you get the best possible leverage from it. I don't think it's worth being cheap here. I think that the more you pay, the more you get out. And obviously, if you're like a solo founder, if you're a solopreneur, you can get away with the free plan, definitely. But if you're looking for like a team to actually scale and build operations, build out the operations, I definitely recommend going for the highest plan. So if you do the backend math of €12 per month, if you pick monthly, right? And that's per seat, right? So if you pick 30 seats, and here you pay €360. So this is about 4K per year, okay? And if you compare this to 40 seats, you suddenly pay almost 5K per year, right? If you have just one more person. So I think that's one of the common faults of Monday, even though I think the platform is great. The pricing has to be considered here because you do get, and like you're technically paying for more seats than you need to on a daily basis. And I think it's kind of unnecessary on Monday's end. And ClickUp, on the other hand, has different pricing. They have per seat. So if you are, in this case, 31 employees, you do pay for 31 seats, which I think is better. Generally speaking, I think it's more ROI. I think it's higher value. But in here, we can see a total of technically 2 paid plans. Free one is just free. Enterprise, obviously, is not a thing for most people. So business is $90 per month. If you compare this to Monday pricing, we have Pro for $90 per month. Worth mentioning, like ClickUp on its own has more pricing tiers. They have another tier, which is actually called, in this case, it's called number 3, which is Business Plus, and it usually lands at $29 per month for most industries. It depends on where you're located. Some countries have lower amounts for like 25, 24, if I remember correctly, but I know that I pay $29 a month. I think Business Plus is the best paid plan, but obviously they don't showcase because they want to showcase the most common plans, which are the top of Unlimited and the Business. Now, if you're going to pick these platforms, I've worked basically just as much in Monday as in ClickUp. I think that the here $19 a month plan is much higher value than the Unlimited plan. You get so many more features, so many more dashboards, integrations, and so on. Paying $9 a month, even though it's 2x the price, in the grand scheme of things here, it's basically nothing. Monday, same thing here. I recommend getting the standard or the Pro. Personally speaking, I think it's the highest ROI, just out of the normal system. Now, another major part when picking a project management platform is Monday has multiple products. They have the CRM, the dev, the service, and the work management. ClickUp doesn't have this. ClickUp only has one hierarchy structure, and that's the project management. Monday also allows you to connect with a CRM system for additional price of pretty heavy. So these costs do stack up. So if you pay, let's say, for 20 seats, here you will pay about 4K per year. And for the CRM, you would do the same thing, 20 seats, another 3K per year. So it does stack up in terms of pricing. And if you want to have the CRM feature in Monday, you'll have to pay another hefty price for that, which I think it's quite sad to see, mainly because you technically can build a CRM in the work management as well, to a degree. ClickUp allows you to customize whatever you want to. Monday is a bit more strict on that point. Also worth mentioning around Monday CRM point, that Monday does have a better CRM infrastructure than ClickUp, speaking nowadays. It might change in the future, but I do think that Monday CRM is very mid. I think it's like low tier. It's basically like the work management with some added features. I love you, Monday, but that's the truth. So worth mentioning that if you want to build a CRM system in Monday as well, you'll have to pay for the additional costs. Now, costs out the way, let's actually sign up for the platform. So in ClickUp, I'm just going to press on new workspace just because I want to create a new account. I'm going to run everything on the free plan to give both a very fair shot. So I'm going to say this is for work, for sales and CRM. I don't want to invite anyone. Skip step. So already from here, we can like pick the tools we use, like if it's Slack, if it's Monday, even if it's Zoom, Google Drive, Asana, Microsoft Teams, Notion, Dropbox. I'm just going to press next because I don't want to connect anything. You can see, okay, which feature are interesting testing. I like to test all features. I'm just going to put in, but let's technically, you only need the tasking projects. Now I'm going to call this FlowClick Monday versus ClickUp. And then finish. And this will start setting up a platform. I'll do the same thing for Monday. As you can see, Monday has the same infrastructure. Hey, work. I'm the business owner. Continue. Then tells me some information. Let's say only me. Let's put some heuristic here. And then it keeps asking me for the questions. I can only pick one here. So I'm just going to put, let's say, basically project management, which is like operations, I would assume here. And then, okay, what do I want to focus on? Task management, of course. Now, running these two side by side, if I just compare the two platforms, you can see that they do look somewhat similar with the structure. As in, okay, here we have the space, the lists. Same thing for the Monday. We have the different space and the lists. So the thing which Monday does kind of excel on, specifically for beginners, is that Monday kind of pre-builds some things to kind of get started with the different tasks. You can see it adds the statuses, it adds the due dates, it adds the owners, and some dashboards for reporting and so on. So that kind of pre-builds you some templates already before you get started. ClickUp, it's a bit more raw. You can see there's nothing. I have to add the stuff myself. And of course, I can't really blame ClickUp because you can just press on new space, use templates, and then just find templates that already exist. It's very straightforward of finding templates. There are so many out there. Agency management, quick use. They have so many templates which they can offer. Now, sadly, I have to pay for it because it's unlimited, which is a bit of a bummer. But if you just have some common sense, you can set up very easily. So what do task or project management platforms actually do? Well, in the core, they track your project management, so your projects. So how are you going to use it? Well, as a to-do list. That's the major part here. So if I just zoom this in and make it a bit bigger, I'm going to start by saying my first task. My first task of the day, let's say, is create meta ad sets. That's the first thing I do. I'm going to assign myself as a person here. I'm going to put the due date. So when does the task need to be done? I'm going to put in, let's say, next week, or let's say within 2 days. Priority, if it's urgent, high, normal, low. Let's say it's high. I have now my own to-do list of different statuses. And of course, at the moment, they are not configured. So if I press complete, they're going to complete. If I just open other view and just add completed as well. So status is closed. I'm just going to change this custom status. So it's more than just like to do in a complete, right? Ideally, we'll have it a bit more sophisticated. So in this case, if I just open the closed one again, I put it back into in progress, and then I remove the filter, save view. So you can see we have multiple stages: to do, in progress, complete. If you compare this to a system like Monday in here, where we have the same thing, so create meta ads, or ad sets, whatever I wrote. Owner is going to be myself. Due date, I'm going to put Saturday, right? Then we had statuses, done, working, stuck, to do. You can see it's the same thing basically with the predefined things. And worth noting that none of these are set in stone. You can add new labels, waiting on client. You can very easily add new statuses. You can see just like this. If you compare this to a platform like ClickUp, you can do the same thing. You custom field, edit, add, waiting for a client. You can kind of see how each platform is very similar in itself. It's not much of a difference here. You can see waiting for a client, same thing. Interface very similar. And worth noting, people might say, but yeah, it looks kind of different. You know, we have the drop down in here with the status, and you know, we have the to do and so on. You can just as much add the status in here and kind of make it a priority as well. Works the same way. We can change the interface as well. It's very customizable to do this in ClickUp. And like, hey, we can wrap text. We can start by shortening task locations. So if we start adding more text, it starts like looking more as a Monday task. One of the major things where Monday is different than ClickUp, which I'm not sure if it's a good or bad thing. I'm being honest, I think it's very subjective to each team, is that the Monday system in here is to have different level of statuses. So if you go back into here, you can see that there is groups. Groups is different groups inside of Monday, like to do, completed, and they have nothing to do with technical group statuses. There are like completed automations behind it, which can like you move from here to here and so on. But generally speaking, groups are like a set of projects, kind of set up. It's like grouping different types of projects. Then you still have a board, right, in Monday. And a board is equal to a list in ClickUp. So this is a list. It works the same way as a board. They're just named differently. So in ClickUp, these things are called tasks, and these under are called subtasks. So log into Meta. Or first, we have to set up Meta Pixel, right? These are subtasks. In Monday, these are items. And under the items, these are called sub-items, right? So log into Meta. You can see they're very similar and they're very, very alike in terms of structure. They just have different naming, and that's kind of the main difference between the platforms in terms of how they structure. Now, being more specific here, why is one better than the other, and how do you know which one to pick? This comes down to infrastructure later on the line. As you can see, each platform is very similar in terms of structure. They both have a to-do list. They both are quite sophisticated. They have their own things. They have their own systems. It's very similar at a scale. The main difference comes when you're trying to scale. Which features are important for you? Do you need AI? Do you need automations? How much are you willing to pay? Those are the questions you need to ask yourself when picking the platform. So if you are thinking about picking Monday or ClickUp, this major question will kind of solve it for you. And that's, what's your long-term goal with the platform? If it's featuring AI agents, if it's using creating agentic workflows, you want to very heavily focus on AI nowadays, and that you think that's the future, then ClickUp is excelling at it. mainly because ClickUp has their own AI agents, their own AI features, Super Agent. Monday hasn't released anything like this before. They have their own like AI workflows, AI agents, but I wouldn't say they are on the same level. You can request early access to get access to them, but they're not as built out, or just like basically they're a bit rushed in terms of features. I think it's one of the major problems with Monday is that the AI agents are a bit rushed, so they aren't really there yet. And that's where I've seen just ClickUp excel in the last couple of years, and kind of progress much faster than Monday, being honest. I think Monday is great for beginners. I think Monday is great for understanding core concepts. But if you want to like think about features for the price and for the money, I think ClickUp allows you to get much, much more for the fraction of a price of Monday. So if you think about AI, then you can go into more ClickUp. I think they have a much better and sophisticated system when it comes to building AI systems. Another thing which is very important when running this at scale, because in the core you have set up lists, you can set up clients, so you can say like, hey, here is client list. I would call this Amazon or like Apple. I'll call another list called Amazon, and so on, right? You have your own lists, you have your own clients, and all I'm running now is free plan. This costs me nothing, so I can still add a bunch of things on the free plans. Same thing here. I can add, okay, another board called Facebook or Facebook, so on. Another board called, and no, perfect. I did pick, no, it's not portfolio, it's a board here. Apple and so on, right? It works the same way. You can see it's very similar in terms of infrastructure. There's no major difference here. I think it's quite similar in terms of structure. You have your own folders, you have documents, you have dashboards, you have forms. All of this is the same thing for both platforms. They're very similar in terms of features. So the features in itself are not kind of the major thing here, because being honest, most of the forms here are very, very similar in terms of structure. And if you just compare, like if you write ClickUp versus Monday, and if you're curious to see, I know that ClickUp has a bias, like, hey, they have a blog, and then we can go into ClickUp pricing, right? You can Google this yourself if you're curious to see more ClickUp pricing. You can see if you just go down here versus Monday, it does kind of say which things which Excel's had. So, okay, you do have more customization, which is true. You can customize more with Monday or with ClickUp rather than Monday. Conversation is a big part. Use one app instead of 10. That's a big part. It does like list a bunch of features which Monday doesn't have. Same thing here. Here, like Monday tells you that ClickUp is better forever. Like, hey, I think they're quite similar in terms of like features. Now, when should you pick ClickUp and when should you pick Monday? Being more specific here, and that's something I'm going to focus on just now, and which one to pick. ClickUp very, very heavily focuses on, or just recently, heavily focus on chats, features, calls. So I can jump on video calls with them. I can start syncing my calls. I can have voice notes. I can have like full on chats, like saying, hey, what's up? Hey, what's up? And they can put like in a wave, like the typical wave. I can chat, I can tag people. It's like a Slack built in. Monday is not as good with this. And obviously you have still your own like basic things of like, hey, commenting, adding comments and so on. Now, that's one of the major features. I think ClickUp is great. They have their own calendars. They have, and which obviously Monday also have, but they have their own chats, features, calls, voice notes, AI voice notes, AI super agents. That's a major part for me, which makes me prefer ClickUp. But also the amount of custom, like you can customize your Monday much, or your ClickUp much heavier than you can do your Monday. The thing I mean by this is, if you go back into Monday here, and being totally honest here, you have to pay for both to like, hey, if you want to update via email, you can give feedback. You can write some simple stuff here. And this is where I think you get more worth for ClickUp rather than Monday when it comes to building the integrations and getting more for your money. Why? Well, because if you want to turn this into CRM as well, you have to go into Monday and pay for the CRM system. If you want ClickUp, you can just customize this very, very easily to your Monday. I'm going to create, I can just rename this technically and call it like CRM. If that makes sense, I can delete this list. I can have one list for like, hey, active clients. I can have one list for leads. I can then just remove some of these fields, right? So it looks more realistic. So I can have just like, hey, one of my active clients is Amazon. I can rename the custom statuses, and then I just did the same thing. Amazon. I can just customize this to edit status, custom, and just call it active client instead. They will never know. Save, apply changes. Now suddenly we have like a CRM feature. We can add like, hey, we can add phone numbers, create a phone. We can add like phone numbers, right? We can remove the priority. We can add the email, create email. Same thing here. Perfect, right? Phone number, we can put in a phone number. We can put in the email, right? Now it's suddenly as a CRM. I can go into here. I can email people around this as well. So I can both comment and like do a bunch of things, but I can also send emails. I can do a bunch more features through here without having to think about purchasing Monday CRM. That's something that's worth noting. Monday doesn't really have these custom features, mainly because they want you to pay for the CRM. So they do limit yourself on how much you can do. You have activity logs. You can send some updates via email. You can like technically write like, hey, if this is like, hey, active clients. But if I create a new board here, like I just did, and I just write like, hey, active clients, and I like remove this, I somewhat do the same thing. It does still lack a bunch of features which ClickUp has compared to Monday. Overall, right? Actually, like active clients, but it's still like, hey, it's called item. We don't have like the same things here, and obviously if they are quite similar, but I just believe that like ClickUp has this feature, or like it kind of excels when it comes to building custom systems over Monday. The last thing I want to touch on, which I think is the most important and you don't want to miss, is which one do you prefer? Just by interface, just by playing around with it. If you want something very, very straightforward, if you want something simple, go for Monday. If okay, like, hey, I'm just starting out, I'm not sure what to pick. I'm just like, hey, Monday is super straightforward, go for Monday. If you want a long-term option, because if you want to think about, okay, how much can I tweak it? How much can I change it? How long-term growth is it? Is the platform evolving? Is the platform growing? Pick ClickUp. The major difference I see between the two platforms is, okay, this Monday, easy from day one. That's like one of the major things. This, easy by day 3, maybe. It takes you some more time to learn, but much more scalable. Perfect. Scalable. Much more to customize. Not much room for errors, or more rooms for errors. So I can't either way if I just do this to a list instead. Either way here, you get the point of me doing this. So the major difference between this is that this leaves less room for errors, but it also leaves less room for growth. Here, we do kind of add more rooms for error, because if you can customize everything yourself and do like whatever you want to the platform, it also means you can set up the platform wrong. And that's why if you're educated on ClickUp, if you have watched like a couple of YouTube videos, if you just use a template, you do get very, very far, and I think it's enough. But for Monday, it's more bulletproof when starting out, and I think that's why Monday has attracted a lot of beginners, mainly because Monday is so easy to use. It's already like pre-built for, you can just like put in, but it also limits yourself later on the line when trying to grow, especially when it comes to AI, automation, systems, mainly, and like speaking here when it comes to Monday, this feature of automations, I think it's very limited compared to ClickUp. I don't like how they have like pre-built templates, which aren't really that useful. And it's kind of like, if you want to build your custom things, stuff, you're very limited to how much things you can do. I think ClickUp is much more excelled, or like much more forward thinking when it comes to specifically the automation tab, because you can do so many custom features with different due dates, different custom dates, and different custom columns. You can do whatever you want, which I think is one of the reasons why I love ClickUp more over Monday. Even though I build with Monday quite often, I do still use the platform on a daily basis. My personal opinion, speaking and working with over 45 agencies, is that ClickUp excels. Just because the long-term thinking of, if you manage to set up the platform correctly, it has so many more features and so many more possibilities. It's kind of like comparing a children's toy to Monday, and then like here is like the people who are a bit more kind of geeked, or like, hey, they understand everything else a bit more complex. Monday, super easy to use. ClickUp, a tiny bit harder, but has that long-term scale and growth if you know how to set up the platform from the beginning. So my verdict here, like, if which platform to pick, ClickUp for long-term growth, Monday if you just want something simple that works today. And the reason why I might get famous for this, but like I don't include like Asana or Trello or like Jira or like whatever else, is because those platforms are not on the same growth as Monday and ClickUp at the moment. I have seen especially ClickUp grow insane amounts in the past couple of months and just like a year or so. Same with Monday. I think like Monday is very straightforward and forward thinking. They just like have to keep up with the AI features. Not there yet. Asana is like the most simplest platform to use. I think it's very limited if you want something robust and like actually automated with agents and AI and so on. That's why I'm leaving that out of the picture. I think Asana works great. If you're using Asana, congrats to you. It works very well. But long term, if you can like get the best possible system ever, setting up a very, very robust system in ClickUp or Monday is much, much more worth than setting up a robust system in Asana. Personal opinion, I think that's the way to go. Well, yeah, those are my thoughts. Personally, I think Monday is better to a degree when it comes to building simple, straightforward system you're new. ClickUp is better for long-term growth and AI agents, automations, actually making it efficient. There is core difference in them. If you're starting out, if you're a solo founder, pick whatever you want. I think ClickUp is better pricing as well, which is worth noting here. Mainly because like Monday is a bit maybe bigger. They don't care as much. They can charge for 3 seats without using 3 seats. Sure, if that's the way you want to run for it. Either way, my recommendation based on this video, you go into both platforms, you test them out. You'll probably notice that Monday's a bit cleaner. It's like bulletproof. It's like a baby platform, super easy to use, super fun, but it does get limited quite quick when it comes to features, functions, and so on. So that's the major part. Easy to use, but it does get limited after a while in terms of scalability and so on. But yeah, I do like the interface of Monday. Very, very straightforward, very simple, but not as sophisticated as the other platforms. Either way, hope you enjoyed and hope this helped you pick the right system. And if you need help with building these kinds of system automations and just integrations, book a call with me below. I'm happy to give you some guidance on how and which system to pick and what the best tool stack to use in 2026 for agencies specifically, and also for other platforms like AI meeting note takers and other AI systems. So hope you enjoyed. Thank you for watching. And if you're interested to see more content, subscribe. I have basically daily videos coming out on which operations to run and what's the long-term growth behind them and which ones are the best. Thank you and hope you enjoyed a different style of video.